In the dense Kinabatangan rainforest of Borneo, Malaysia, lives this extraordinary creature, the orangutans. This primate that shares almost 97% of our DNA is our closest living relative. However, these creatures are now under immense threat. The orangutan's population in Malaysian Borneo Island fell by 30% in the last 15 years. The declining number of surviving orangutans is part of a much bigger problem. Deforestation and the unprecedented rise in oil palm farming posed a threat to the orangutan's habitat and its existence.
So if we talk about a worldwide population, we only have orangutans in Indonesian part, like Sumatra and Borneo. So that's already a threat in itself, that they're endemic. They're only found in very limited spaces. So I would say here in Borneo, in the Malaysian part of Borneo, the oil palm plantation is the bigger threat to the orangutan. If things continue the way they do, the future of the orangutan is bleak.
This is the fruit of the oil palm tree, and palm oil is the most widely consumed vegetable oil on the planet. Malaysia is the second biggest producer of palm oil in the world. It's used in food, cosmetics, and to generate clean fuel in the European Union, the biofuel. EU is the largest importer of palm oil to generate biodiesel, which led to accelerated demand for palm oil produced in Malaysia. The Malaysian Palm Oil Council represents producers, and Kalana Sundram is the Chief Executive Officer.
As of 2008, when the Europeans decided that they want to reduce or decarbonize their transport system, and they decided to invest heavily into biodiesel. Now, they initially thought that they would be able to manage the biodiesel volume with their own local rapeseed production, but this could not be sustained, and therefore they looked forward to palm oil, which was actually always has been trading at a discount to the seed oils, including rapeseed oil. As a result, palm oil consumption in Europe grew rapidly, and it kept on increasing, right? Because, as you know, the demand in the transport sector for biodiesel and then for use in other renewable energy applications increased tremendously.
What was supposed to be an environmentally friendly fuel had an unintended consequence in lands far away. Thus, the consumption of palm oil was plagued with controversy. Environmental activists claim oil palm farming is a double whammy to the environment. It endangered wildlife and accelerated climate change, a debate that took center stage across Europe. When forests are cleared or burned to make way for oil palm plantations, a vast amount of carbon is released into the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide, the main culprit in global warming.
Now, this then accumulated in a lot of anti-palm oil campaign, because the perception then got set in among European legislators and then European consumers that palm oil is a major driver of deforestation.
Startled by the consequences of its own policy, the EU moved to phase out palm oil imports in its production of biofuel. This triggered a strong pushback from Malaysia through its Love My Palm Oil campaign, political maneuvering, and even trade retaliation.
If they keep on taking action against us, trying to impoverish us, we will have to think of buying airplanes from China or from any other country.
Although the European Union's decision to contain further damage to the environment may have alleviated environmentalist fears, the sentiment in Malaysia is that the decision failed to take into account the economic impact on rural farmers in Malaysia. For decades, oil palm farming sustained their livelihoods. Sinapan Saringayagam, first-generation palm oil grower in the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He is living with the consequences of a slump in oil palm fruit prices that fell below £50 per ton. Today is the harvest day of palm fruits.
ஏறக்குறைய ஒரு டன்னுக்கு குறைவாக இருக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். இன்னும் தீம்பாங்க பண்ணல, எடுத்துகிட்டு போய் தீம்பாங்க பண்ணால் தான் தெரியும் அது எவ்வளோ வருதுன்னு. இப்போ டன்னு விலையும் கொஞ்சம் குறைவு, ரொம்ப குறைவாக இருக்குது. அப்போ நாங்கள் வந்துட்டு 2 பேர் தான், வயசானவங்க 2 பேர் இருக்கோம். இப்போ எங்களுக்கு இது கட்டுப்படி ஆகாது. நாங்கள் வந்து சிறு தோட்டக்காரங்க பாரு, எங்களுக்கெல்லாம் 1 ஏக்கர் 2 ஏக்கர் நாங்கள் வச்சுக்கிட்டு நாங்கள் இதை வந்து வச்சு சமாளிக்கிறோம். எங்களுக்கு வந்து 10 ஏக்கரு 20 ஏக்கரோ 30 ஏக்கரோ இல்லை பாரு. ஒரு 120 வச்சுக்கிட்டு நாங்கள் என்ன செய்கிறது? எங்களுக்கு வருமானம் இல்லையா?
Kastolani Halimi is another farmer bearing the brunt of the EU's decision to ban palm oil imports for biofuel production. He claims his income slumped by 50% compared to what he used to earn.
Ya, pada orang yang bergantung sepenuhnya pada sawit, memang kena buat gitulah. Berjimat-jimat lah. Sebab macam saya ni tak berapa sangat lah. Dah berumur macam tu, anak pun dah ramai, ada dengar cerita-cerita ni. Tapi kita kat bawah ni nak buat apa, nak buat macam mana. Cuma itulah kalau boleh. Kerajaan sendiri kena ni lah. Kena berusaha, mungkin hubungan antara negara-negara tu kena dibaikkan lagi.
Besides making threats, the Malaysian government has taken some concrete measures. Malaysia, along with other palm oil producing countries, environmental and social non-governmental organizations, has established an NGO called the Roundtable Sustainable Palm Oil, RSPO. The NGO developed a set of standards which producers must comply to produce certified sustainable palm oil. It looks at the whole production process from environmental impact to the health and safety of the workers.
Malaysia has the distinction, in fact United Plantations has the distinction of being the first entity or the palm oil producer in the world to be RSPO certified. So today all the major plantation houses in the country are RSPO certified, and we are actually producing more certified palm oil than the demand created in the Western Hemisphere, especially Europe.
Despite all efforts to adhere to stringent certification, the industry complains that the EU has failed to recognize the progress Malaysia has made. By 2030, the EU will phase out palm oil import for biofuel, and already the amount imported is reducing year by year. And it's the smallholder farmers, above all, who are carrying the cost.
RSPO comes with a cost to the smallholders and a whole bunch of very sophisticated filing systems and principles, criteria, requirement, which the poor farmer on the ground is not always able to adhere to. And the biggest issue was the cost.
Despite the challenges, almost 35% of smallholder oil palm farmers in Malaysia are certified. Hariri Sadiman is one of them.
Jadi apa yang dia kempen itu adalah terlalu jauh dari kami lah. Jadi kita kurang faham mengenai perkara yang mereka bimbang sangat lah. Sebaliknya kita sedar melalui maklumat yang disampaikan oleh MPOB supaya kita melaksanakan kita punya pertanian ya dengan cara yang tersusun, teratur, terutama bila kita menggunakan pakai standard, iaitu standard yang sedang diguna pakai sekarang, iaitu MSPO ya. Di mana kita akan lebih teratur dari segi pengurusan ladang ya. Sama ada dari segi pembersihan kebun ataupun dari segi pembajaan atau dari segi kita punya keselamatan semasa kita bekerja ya. Jadi perkara-perkara yang perlu kita lakukan untuk memenuhi keperluan pihak-pihak antarabangsa lah yang terlalu anti sawit, kita cuba memenuhi keperluan mereka. Jadi kita tidak faham mengapa mereka masih lagi terus-menerus membuat kempen anti sawit di sana-sini lah.
As the process to certify palm oil is progressing in Malaysia, the EU is yet to make any distinction between sustainable and non-sustainably produced palm oil. The Malaysian government believes it has a strong case for World Trade Organization adjudication. At a news conference in London in April this year, we asked the Malaysian Minister of Primary Industries on the government's next course of action.
Well, we have said it. we have said it. I mean, we have announced it. You see, WTO is also our last resort. But before we go to that line, I think we also engage we still focus on engaging all stakeholders. And for us, going to WTO is always a last resort.
While efforts to seek legal recourse gets underway, on the ground in Borneo, environmentalists are undertaking research to find ways in which wildlife and oil palm planters can coexist. The answers may come from here, Sandakan city of Malaysian Borneo, which has the largest oil palm planted area in the country. The Danau Girang Research Center is looking for ways to curb wildlife fragmentation arising from oil palm farming.
Rather than focusing on trying to boycott it or anything of that kind of nature, I mean, you have to realize that palm oil has such a high yield compared with any other sort of oil-based crop, that if you decide to get rid of palm oil, then you have to plant 6 or 10 times as much area of land to get the same amount of produce somewhere else. So boycotting is probably just going to contribute to more deforestation and natural land loss. So I think the better solution is to try to understand how animals are able to survive, and to try and make plantations a more sustainable habitat.
The pressure from EU and the concerns about palm oil plantations have sparked an awareness among industry stakeholders in Malaysia to give serious consideration to sustainable production and conservation. But the lesson here is, when industry and nature collides, it necessitates a compromise.
I don't think we should provide the message of all palm is good for wildlife. It's not. But because it's there and we have to do with it, and it's important for the development of the country, it's important for Malaysia, it's food source for people, so it's then we have to find a way for wildlife and for all palm to live in harmony. That's why we are trying to find solutions.
Nevertheless, environmentalists caution that if the EU fails to recognize the need for a compromise, then the whole future of such efforts may be in jeopardy.